There are lots of genealogies or family trees in the Old Testament. The Genesis 5 family tree lists descendants from Adam to Noah. The Genesis 11 family tree lists descendants from Seth to Abraham. Moses' family tree is found in Exodus 6. The genealogies use the Hebrew word yalad, which means have a child. It is translated bore or begat. Unless we understand how Moses used the word yalad, the Old Testament genealogies will not make sense. They will be absurd. They will be impossible. Let me explain. When was Moses born? Exodus 12:40-41 says, the time that the people of Israel lived in Egypt was 430 years. At the end of 430 years, on that very day, all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. How old was Moses when the nation left Egypt? Exodus 7:7 says, now Moses was 80 years old and Aaron 83 years old when they spoke to Pharaoh. Moses was born 430 minus 80, or 350 years after the family moved to Egypt. I'll put that on a graph. Every square in the graph is 10 years. Jacob, or Israel, was a grandfather when he moved his family to Egypt at year 0. When they moved, some of his grandchildren were little. Moses was born the 350th year the nation was in Egypt. 80 years later, they left Egypt. That was year 430. Let's look at Moses' family tree. Jacob had 12 sons, and Levi was son number 3. This is Moses' genealogy from Exodus 6. The names of the sons of Levi, according to their records, include Kohath. Kohath is Levi's son. The sons of Kohath were Amram. Amram is Kohath's son and Levi's grandson. Amram married his father's sister, Jochebed, who bore him Aaron and Moses. That sounds confusing. Who is Jochebed? Numbers 26:59 says, the name of Amram's wife was Jochebed, the daughter of Levi, who was born to Levi in Egypt. And she bore to Amram Aaron and Moses and Miriam, their sister. Jochebed was Levi's daughter. Kohath was her brother. She was born in Egypt. She married Levi's grandson, Amram. She bore or begat 3 children, Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. Bore, begat means to have a child. When was Moses born? Moses was born 430 minus 80, or the 350th year Israel was in Egypt. What year was Jochebed born? You run into absurdities when you use Moses' genealogy from Exodus 6 to calculate when she was born, and from there to calculate when Moses was born. The least problematic year would be the last year for Father Levi's life, when he was 137 years old. Let's guesstimate how many years the nation of Israel was in Egypt when Levi died. Levi was son number 3. Zebulun was son number 10. How many years were there between son number 3 and son number 10, between Levi and Zebulun? I'm going to guess about 12. Zebulun was a father of 3 before they moved. If Zebulun's children were little, Zebulun might have been about 30 when the family moved to Egypt. If Levi was 12 years older than Zebulun, he might have been about 42 when Jacob moved the family to Egypt. What year in Egypt did Levi die? Levi lived 137 years. Subtract 42. Levi would have died about the 95th year the nation was in Egypt. I'll put that in the graph. Levi entered Egypt when he was about 42 years old. He died when he was 137 years old, about 95 years after moving to Egypt. His daughter Jochebed was born to Levi after the move to Egypt. If she was born the last year of Levi's life when he had lived 95 years in Egypt, can you count the number of squares between her birth and when she begat Moses and multiply that number by 10 years? She begat Moses when she was 255 years old. No, Jochebed's father Levi lived 137 years. Her brother Kohath lived 133 years. Her husband Amram lived 137 years. Could she have lived 100 years longer than her father or brother or husband and begat 3 children when she was older than 250 years? That would be a miracle. However, the only Old Testament miracle birth was when Sarah gave birth to Isaac when she was 90 years old. Levi dying the 95th year in Egypt is the least problematic year Jochebed could have been born. If she had been born when her father was younger, Jochebed would have been even older when she begat Moses. Using Moses' genealogy to calculate when Jochebed was born, and from there to calculate when Moses was born, well, that leads to absurdities, to impossibilities. Moses was born the 350th year Israel was in Egypt. The least problematic year Jochebed could have been born makes her 255 years old when she begat Moses. Moses wrote his own genealogy. The impossibility makes it obvious that our understanding of the Hebrew word yalad leads to absurdities. Moses wrote in Hebrew. Moses must use the Hebrew word bore or begat very differently than we do. The Hebrew word for have a child is yalad. It is translated bore or begat. In Exodus 6, Jochebed bore or begat Moses. However, in Exodus 2, an unnamed man from the house of Levi took a wife. His wife bore or begat a son. That son was Moses. Notice, the man was from the house of Levi. The nation of Israel was composed of 12 houses or tribes. Moses was from the tribe of Levi. The tribe of Levi had 3 divisions, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The division of Kohath had 4 clans, Amram, Ishar, Hebron, and Uzziel. Moses used the tribe, division, clan structure in his genealogies. Look at how Moses organized his genealogy. His tribe was Levi, his division was Kohath, and his clan was Amram. Why are there absurdities in Moses' genealogy? Moses doesn't list all his ancestors. He doesn't even name his parents. He only lists significant names. Those significant names were his tribe, division, and clan. Exodus 2 gives only 1 significant name, Moses' tribe. Exodus 6 gives 3 significant names, Moses' tribe, division, and clan. Amram is not his father. Amram refers to his clan. Jochebed is not his mother. She is his ancestor, perhaps his great-great-great-grandmother. Yet, Moses used the word yalad to say she bore or begat Moses. We see that the Hebrew word yalad can refer to someone other than a parent. An ancestor can beget a distant descendant. A significant name can beget another significant name in the line of descent. Moses wrote the genealogies in Genesis 5 and 11. Those genealogies use the same Hebrew word for bore or begat. The logic Moses used in writing his own genealogy applies to the Genesis genealogies. They are not detailed accounts of parentage. They give significant names in the line of descent. To summarize, Moses' genealogy is historical, but it contains gaps. The gaps are intentional. Moses only lists significant names. Moses' ancestor, perhaps his great-great-great-grandmother, begat Moses. In the English language, a parent gives birth to a child, but in the Hebrew language, an ancestor can birth a distant descendant. You cannot use Moses' genealogy to calculate when Moses was born. Moses also wrote the genealogies in Genesis 5 and 11. The Genesis 5 genealogy is from Adam to Noah, and the Genesis 11 genealogy is from Noah's son Seth to Abraham. These genealogies follow the same logic Moses used in his own genealogy. They contain gaps. The gaps are intentional. The genealogies only list significant names. An ancestor can beget a distant descendant. A significant name can beget another significant name in the line of descent. You cannot use these genealogies to calculate when Adam was created or the date of Noah's flood. What does this mean when we study Genesis? Several years ago, I attended an apologetics conference held in an evangelical church. One of the breakout sessions was on the Genesis creation account and was taught by a young man in his early 20s. He told his story. His church taught that there was only one way to interpret Genesis 1 through 11, the Genesis creation account through the genealogies. But when he looked at the details, he realized his church's interpretation didn't match reality. It was impossible. He started to doubt the Bible. He was emotionally and spiritually in a turmoil and didn't know what he could believe. He finally shared his doubts and turmoil with a trusted mentor. As he did, he learned that his church's interpretation is only one of many evangelical interpretations of those passages. When he studied other interpretations, he was able to put his doubts to rest. At the close of the breakout session, he begged the parents in the audience to teach their children that there are many ways to interpret Genesis 1 through 11. For instance, I know of 12 evangelical interpretations of the creation account in Genesis, and I've studied 6 of them. I found that there are strengths and weaknesses in each of the 6. I echo this young man's advice. When we teach about creation from Genesis 1 through 11, we must acknowledge that there are many evangelical interpretations, and each one of them has strengths and weaknesses. We need humility and honesty. Humility. We need to acknowledge the weaknesses in our interpretation. Honesty. We need to acknowledge the strengths in other interpretations.